Trump is a mystery to many. His program and its eventual completion may seem hard to fathom. He is certainly putting America first, but even in this context, America is not a coherent population nor a one-dimensional structure. However, we do know he is to some degree motivated by the traditions of Christianity in the traditional priorities of white, Christian, culture. Even the program of making America great again harkens back to a time when things appeared to be moving ahead. It is not an appeal to a perfect era. As many have pointed out, America was never great, not if we define great in the sense of a nation that epitomized what it means to be a Christian nation. America has probably never even equaled Britain, so far as statecraft is concerned, but America has always stood for hope for those in desperate need for something better. America represented the promised land. It was always great in that respect, in terms of the promise it represented. Some people think America being great means that at some time in the past, America had reached a pinnacle of what a nation could be. This same confusion is witnessed when we talk about a golden age. The world generally, in America and Christians specifically, never reached their zenith. That is not what is being said. The golden age was encapsulated in European and British culture. The internecine wars blotted out this rise to greatness to some degree, but the promise of Europe was picked up and transported to America. This was something of a setback culturally speaking. The culture of Germany and Britain was largely lost in the covered wagons and log cabins of the pioneers, but much of it was regained as the population surged. But culture is just the visible symptoms of the age we are in. The rest of the world has nothing like it and no path to it. China and India tried but became bogged down and moribund in the shallowness of their vision. Their conception of the golden age lacked grandeur. Trump might be criticized for narrowing the focus of his vision down to one country and its peculiar culture. But this is necessary and biblical. America is to some extent the city on the hill. For too long we have attempted to light candles everywhere, but no one is there to replenish them. There is too much effort in making a city of light in the valleys. We must understand the golden age is not an age that brings innovation to a close. Nor is America's greatness about America reaching a pinnacle that will never be transcended. However, when we talk about greatness and a golden age, we are talking about a hope of a people. To claim a golden age is all about technology or the accoutrements of civilization, is to miss the point. The pinnacle of a man's life is not reached at the moment he has more money than everyone else or even the largest bank balance in his life. We do not really measure success by the amount of wealth we have. Indeed, the success of a man's life may be determined without reference to the money he has, at least in some cases. Ministers are not likely to rate their success as a minister by how much wealth they accumulated. No doubt this appears normal. Why ought our success or failure be tied to income? It's a loaded question because it assumes we are not paid for what we do, or at least not in proportion to the value we create, which is much the same thing. Trump and Elon are incensed at the waste of the bureaucracy. If we were all paid for what we do at the level at which we create value, there would be no waste. Someone had to create the wealth, before it is wasted. Waste is always, without exception, the removal of wealth from the person who created it. All wealth belongs, irrevocably, to the creator of the wealth. This is the perfect doctrine. This is the doctrine that leads to ministry and the adoption of a theocracy. A theocracy is perfect, or it cannot be a theocracy. No doubt neither Trump nor Elon imagine they are attempting to fashion a theocracy. But Trump at least understands the importance of living a godly existence. He understands there is a higher power we need to answer to. To be perfect requires the absence of parasitism. This is a central concern of both Trump and Musk, but they miscalculate. Others have seen this. They might well get rid of all public sector waste so far as the left is concerned. But it will only mean worsening conditions on the right. The state will become, if Trump continues down this same road, a fascist dictatorship, in which the power of the state will be focused entirely on the rights of the wealthy, at the expense of the poor and dispossessed. This will mean, to one degree or another, that the poor will be subsidizing their own oppression. The truth is, Trump is not doing anything more substantial than pushing the entire American system far to the right. Even though many will mock the idea of the far right, it has relevance in this situation. There are only two options so far as the economic and political landscape is concerned. These two options are referred to as the left and the right. These directions correspond roughly to conservatism on the right and liberalism on the left. The left views the world in global terms. The planet is a physical entity to which all persons have an equal share to. However, those with the greater responsibility, such as the state, has a greater right to the world's resources. The state, in the thinking of a socialist, has the responsibility to make sure the resources not allocated to the governing bodies, is shared equitably amongst the populace. The motto of a socialist is from each according to their ability and to each according to their need. The world is considered a single enterprise owned by the people and operated in their interests. The conservative operates closer to the law of the jungle. On the right, it is more about every man for himself. But to moderate the anarchy, women and children are given a protected status, far more than is available to the left. The state tends to divide the population into two groups. On the left, the two groups are the political elite and everyone else. The right naturally divides into the right and poor, or those with power and those without, though as said, women and children tend to be given a special protected status less available to them on the left. Trump has decided to veer to the extreme right, minimizing the state as much as possible while maintaining protection of private property. On the right, everything has a price. This seems to make sense, at least in some philosophies. But does life have a price? Who determines the price of a commodity and who decides who owns what? The free market is all about buying and selling without government intervention. This is a good idea, on the surface. If we encounter a market full of goods and services, it seems the most rational thing to do is to let the consumer buy as he or she pleases based on the supply and the demand. However, this is just a particular slice of time. What if the market is full of stolen or misrepresented goods? What if people are selling goods that are deadly or infected? Bankruptcy is not much of a punishment for murder or causing a pandemic. Whatever justification there is for permitting a free market, it is based on unreasonable assumptions of integrity on the part of sellers. If the market is even allowed to operate without oversight, surely the Genesis needs more than jungle law or anarchy to determine who owns what and who gets to sell the assets of the planet. Who sells the woodland or waterfall? Who has the right? Perhaps Trump is right, or at least his position on the market has value in the limited context of an established market. There is no reason to suppose the government can regulate the market better than it can regulate itself. To fully regulate it, the market would no longer exist. A market is a free exchange between buyer and seller. The more the transaction is regulated, the less it is a free exchange. What the state regulates it destroys, for it is no longer a free or fair exchange. On the other hand, if the state does not regulate the market, what guides the system? From whence does the market originate? Man is born naked in the world, and he returns the same way. Where does man get the things he markets as his own? Imagine a man in the Stone Age. He finds some flint and he makes an arrowhead. This arrowhead has value and can be traded for other things. If this is a skill other community members do not have, and a skill that others have but cannot equal in the degree of craftsmanship the artisan displays, this skill will have a premium value. The goods produced by this craftsman will have premium value. The possession of these arrowheads will make the community more prosperous and civilized than competing communities. If this man could be multiplied many times over, there would be progress. The problem is not so much the death of innovators, as a lack of asset management. Specifically, the community lacks an understanding of the Bible's asset management tools. Trump understands asset management as being the province of the individual, rather than the state. These seemingly puts him in direct conflict with the socialist Democrats who view the state as the main player in managing the nation's assets. The calculation made by Trump and others on the right fails by virtue of the dictate that we are to look first at the beam in our own eye, before we compensate for the straw in the eye of our brother. The calculation of those on the right has concluded the state has no right to the wealth created by individuals, and therefore, has no right to regulate how that wealth is used. From this doctrine they deduced the theory of the free market. But what they have not considered is that two wrongs do not make a right, and if it is wrong for the state to take what individuals produced, how much more wrong is it for the state or private individuals to take what God produced? The right is correct in saying that which is created is owned by the Creator. But they never extended this formula to include God. The left was correct in believing no one has the right to own the natural world, but they did not extend this principle to the government. In short, it is the antipathy of the left for the right and the right for the left that causes both to err. They cannot see each exhibits the same error but from different sides. The left is no more wrong or right than conservatives, who are no more wrong or right than Democrats. That the other side is wrong, does not make their side right. Indeed, it is very possible for both sides to be wrong and exhibit the same error even if it manifests in different ways. Trump wants to administrate America's resources in a decentralized way. As is the case with many past Americans, Trump has great faith in American individualism. Given a pool of assets, the individual exhibits greater capacity for innovative thinking than the collective or committee. But ultimately, if the public body of the state cannot allocate the wealth of the community as effectively as the individual can disperse his own property, it is also true that God must be given a free hand with what he created and owns. In short, Trump has attempted to swing the socialist pendulum to the right. But while he exhibits the traits of a benign dictator, those whom he appoints and gives rise to, will turn out to be malignant powers desiring only to defraud the state for their own ends, much as happened under the largesse of the previous socialist governments. He will have changed the tactics and methodologies, but not the outcome. A new class of persons will gain great power over property they did not create and is not rightfully theirs. It is a new era of robber barons. It was a time of greatness for America. It is not a time of greatness for those who believe in God.